Well, good evening and welcome to Facebook Live and the Post Rock Extension District. My name is Sandra Wick, and I am the crop production agent for K-State Research and Extension and the Post Rock Extension District. Well, what can I say? This rain has truly been a blessing. And we hope it continues to rain for the next few days. And I don't think there'll be any complaints from anybody with the little muddy boots. So that's a good problem to have. So I've got some wheat here beside me, as you can see. So we were planning on being out in the wheat field tonight. But thanks to Mother Nature, fortunately, we are still getting rain. So we decided to bring the wheat field to you. So here's a picture just yesterday of the Smith County wheat plot. So as you can see, it's developing very, very nicely. And you know, this wheat, it has 9 lives. I was just amazed. I hadn't been over there for maybe a month, and I wasn't expecting the wheat to look near this good. But I think wheat has maybe more than 9 lives. I mean, I can't believe how dry it was and how that wheat just has hung on. Yes, there have been, some little symptoms that you can see that, yes, it was kind of struggling there. It turns that kind of bluish, grayish color. But for the most part, it has hung on. We look so much better at this time than we did last year at this time. If you go further west or further south, they are struggling in those areas because their wheat didn't come up very good. So we feel very fortunate that how our wheat looks. Okay, but even though we have moisture and we have the rain, we don't want you to think that we're out of the woods for drought. We have up here now, we're going to show you the latest United States Drought Monitor map for Kansas. This was just released this week. So as you can see, there's still some dark red areas and the burgundy areas, mainly down in southwest Kansas, kind of in central Kansas there. We've got a big area there that's kind of that red area or that extreme drought. Up in the northwest corner, they have some extreme drought there as well. Our Post Rock district, if you can see right there in the middle there of our 5 counties, the very southeast corner of Mitchell County is maybe an extreme drought, but if you get down to Lincoln County, their southwest or southeast corner up to the northeast corner still has some extreme drought as well. Now, next week, the monitor map may change differently, but then here's another map that we have to show you. This is from the Kansas Mesonet Data Library, and I wanted to point this out to you because it's really some very unique data that it has available for you. This gives you the amount of moisture within the last year and how much we are behind. Right there in the middle of the state, you can see that blue area there, or that blue indicator. That is Osborne County. They're behind 8 inches, and this is within a year through yesterday. But if you look at Osborne and Jewell County and at Mitchell County, and those are the other 2 weather data library weather stations, they are behind. One is over 12 inches and Mitchell County is over 13 inches that we are behind according to the averages. So as you can indicate by this map, there are several other locations in Kansas that are behind in that area. So we've got a lot of catching up to do. So even though this rain is really, really good for the wheat at this time, plus for the crops that haven't been put in the ground yet, like the milo, the corn, and the soybeans, so we got a lot of catching up to do. So we hope that the rain continues in these areas as well. Okay, so some other situations that are going around on the wheat crop is we've had some pretty low temperatures. Last week, specifically on Tuesday, April 26th, we had some low temperatures recorded from this Mesonet library. Remember, the Mesonet library stations that we have in the Post Rock district is Osborne County, Jewell County, and Mitchell County. I also went over a little bit east of us to Republic County just to check their weather and see how low those temperatures were. In Republic County, last Tuesday, it got down to 26 degrees. In our other 3 weather stations in the Post Rock District, it went anywhere from 28 degrees to 32 degrees Fahrenheit. So this is also an indication of if there could be any damage and things to the wheat. So, but there are other indications that also tell you the soil temperatures still stayed up pretty good. And our weather stations across the district, it went from 49 to 55 degrees. So they still stayed up pretty warm. So that's a good insulator as well when the soil temperatures stay up for the plants as well. Some other things that can help insulate this is just the canopy from the wheat plants that can help insulate this developing head down here in the stem. Okay, so is there any damage? That's probably the big question. As you can see by this wheat, it looks in pretty good shape. There are some differences here in these 2 wheat varieties. The one that's closest to me on the right is Grainfield. That's been around for a while. This is what we used as the check variety in each of the plots. This next one, as you can see here, there's a pretty distinct difference in colors here. Let me try to turn it so you can see. This one right here is the Grainfield, or the one closest to me. This one on this side is the LCS Mint. It's been around for a while, but that's where it gets its name, is the dark green mint color that it normally gets. So there is a little bit difference. There's difference here in kind of the height a little bit too. The mint seems to be growing a little bit taller, but it's a taller variety as well. So there's 2 main factors that you look at trying to determine if there would be any freeze damage to your wheat. The big one is the stage of development. This wheat is, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up one of these little tillers here. And here's the wheat tiller here. If you could just take your finger along here, there's a joint, or the first joint that's down here at the bottom, and that would be the first node up above the crown. And then you go on up and you can feel the second joint, okay? And then we have the head right above that. And here's the third joint. Let me feel that again. Here's joint 1. We have joint 2. So it's between the second and the third. And here's the joint number 2. And then here's your wheat head in this area. And here's your flag leaf that's already come out fully. And so the head will come out right next to that flag leaf. So the flag leaf looks very healthy. So what you want to look at then, and remember we talked about the stage of development. Another indication is the temperature. Not only the degree of that temperature, but how long it stays down at that temperature. And that's another big indication of that as well. So K-State Research and Extension has some great publications or great information for you to use, or tools. One of them is called The Spring Freeze Injury to Kansas Wheat. This is available to you at any of our Post Rock Extension offices. You can also go on the K-State website and go to the bookstore and download that as well. So there's lots of information in here, and we'll show you a few of the charts here to kind of show you some indication of if there could be some potential damage. This chart on the left-hand side there lists the different growth stages. Starts with tillering and then jointing and on up to the boot, the heading, and flowering, and then milk, and then eventually to the dough stage. But the main things that we're interested in is that jointing stage, because that's what we're at right now. We're not quite to the boot stage, maybe just a little bit more, but we're between the jointing and the boot stage. So if you look at that, the temperatures that it indicates is that it has to be down to at least 24 degrees for at least 2 hours before you're going to get any moderate to severe damage. Now, remember I told you that it was about 26 degrees at some locations in Republic County, which is a little bit east, that our indications or our weather stations indicated anywhere from 28 to 32 degrees. So with that information, there should be minimal damage to the wheat at the stages that we had. Now, you know as well as I do that some of those temperatures in some of the lower areas could get down maybe lower than 28 degrees. So there could be some damage to the wheat in some of those lower areas. So what I've done here is, so let's take a look at the wheat that I dug up here. Remember, I dug up some of these from the wheat plot here in Smith Center. Let's start with the grain field, which is right nearest to me on my right. And that's what we used in a lot of the varieties for our check variety. So as you can see here, We expose that developing head, and the coloring may not be so good here, but it's not a cream white color. It was a green color. You want it to be greenish, whitish, very firm, not mushy, not watery. So this is in my indication, a very healthy wheat head developing. You can also tell if the wheat plant or the wheat head seems to be damaged, because if the flag leaf is extended and coming out and it's healthy, the other leaves are continuing to grow, that's an indication that there's probably not very much damage from any freeze or low temperatures if the plant continues to grow. I've seen it before where freeze has killed the wheat head, and the flag leaf will die too. If it's not fully exposed, when that flag leaf would come out, it would be brown, yellowish, and just not in very good healthy. Okay, let's move to the next variety here, and I'll move the grain field. We're going to move to the mint. And this mint is actually a medium maturity. And this looks a little bit more yellowish, but it's probably not a good color. But it was green too. Very firm. It looks very healthy. The only thing that I saw maybe that indicated just a little bit of damage could have been the very tip of that. It was a little off color. And you can kind of see it here in this picture. But I'll be curious to see when the head goes on and emerges and comes out of the boot, if that coloring still stays right on the tip. But it might have just been the tip. And sometimes you'll see where when that wheat head comes out of the boot, it can be kinked. The awns can be kinked. The tip of the head can be an off white color. And then if it is killed, and then the kernels will not go on and develop into the wheat kernel. So that's just kind of some indications of if there could be any wheat damage. And it usually takes 9 to 10 days, and that's where we are at right now when we had those low temperatures. And I really haven't seen any indication that we have some severe damage or anything. There might be some slight in some of the lower fields, but right now I think we're okay. Some other things that can show up, and I didn't see this, is some purpling of the stems. Sometimes that can be caused by some cold temperatures that may last a while, but it really shouldn't have any detriment to the yield or anything like that. Okay, what about diseases? Well, fortunately, we have been dry here in Kansas. Texas has been dry, and so has Oklahoma has been dry. Any levels in Oklahoma or Texas is an indication of what can happen in Kansas too, because all the disease and spores will come up from Oklahoma and Texas. So right now they are showing very, very low levels of the foliar diseases such as leaf and stripe rust. So I am not seeing any indication of this right now in any of the wheat around. But if you see any of that, please let me know. It's a pretty bright orange color that you can usually see, and the stripe rust will be rows of pustules or the orange spots on here. The leaf rust is more scattered, but that's where the stripe rust gets its name, because it's in a stripe or a straight line. So that's the foliar diseases. Not that there won't be any, so a good indication is about 7 to 10 days after the rain would clear up, you can go out and scout your fields to see if any of the spores happen to be present, and then the moisture could go in and activate those spores. So just give it a couple weeks. Now, I know a lot of producers, with the price of what wheat is now, about $10 a bushel, they're going to really take care of this wheat crop. So a fungicide, they're going to be more apt maybe to put on an application, a fungicide, when the commodity price is $10 compared to $3 a bushel. But please go out and scout the fields. Don't put on a fungicide application if there's no indication that you have any fungicide or any foliar diseases out there. The main thing that you want to remember is do not spray a fungicide until this flag leaf is fully extended. And that's what you need to remember, because that's what you're trying to protect, is this flag leaf, because your flag leaf contributes a significant amount to the filling of the grain in those kernels. Let's see, some other diseases that could be showing up in some of them is wheat streak mosaic. And of course, that is spread from the wheat curl mite that gets in the volunteer wheat. But a lot of times it would have been spread from last year. So there could be some indication of some of the wheat streak mosaic showing up, but there's some yellowing a little bit on some of these plants. As you can see here on the bottom, there's some yellowing on those plants. Let's turn to the grain field. There's a little bit yellowing on these plants, but that is an indication drought is the biggest contributor to the yellowing of the leaves. And there's been some other tillers down here on the bottom of the leaves that slept off because of the drought and the lack of moisture that we had. But what you need to do is go out and scout those varieties that are the most susceptible to wheat streak mosaic or to the leaf diseases to see if any spores or any indication out there. A great publication that K-State has is a publication, let me get this out of here, A Wheat Disease and Insect Radius from 2021. This was done and completed last year after harvest. This is done every year for producers. So stop by any of their offices and pick up this publication so you can see what varieties may be susceptible. For the leaf rust and the stripe rust, the most, and you'll have to look in this and see what the most susceptible varieties are. For the wheat streak mosaic, the susceptible varieties to look at first would be Grainfield or Bob Dole. So that would kind of give you an indication. Well, that's what I wanted. The last thing that I'm going to tell you about tonight is our Post-Rock District wheat demonstration plot tours. That's going to be coming up the end of this month. And now that we have moisture, there'll be some plots to look at. So we've got that schedule again for Thursday, May 26th, pretty much all day. So we're going to have a west leg and an east leg for the tour like we have done in the several years. So we'll start early in the morning, or not early, but at 10 o'clock, mid-morning at the west. And then on the east side, we'll start at 10:30. We have noon luncheons at both locations. And then we'll have the Osborne County plot at 1:30. And then we'll finish up that evening with the K-State replicated plot in Mitchell County. So thanks to all the sponsors that you see listed there. If you see any of those sponsors or you happen to go into any of those businesses, please thank them for supporting our wheat demonstration plot program. So again, bring your neighbor to any of these. Attend any of the stops that fit for you. If you want to go to all of them, that's great. You might see some different things at any of the locations. So again, thanks for joining us. Please go to our website and look at all the information that we have there for you. Every Friday, we have been sending out a ag news for North Central Kansas. If you'd like to be on that listserv, just call any of our offices and we'd be glad to add you to that. It includes crops and livestock information. So again, thanks for joining us. This has been Sandra Wick with the Post Rock Extension District, and we will see you later. Thanks again.